This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are here in the studio. We are still under our COVID-19 shelter-in-place rules here in northern Colorado. But that hasn't stopped us to be continuing to produce the show. If you've been following us most recently, you've been noticing that we've been intermixing both guests and solo shows. So check those out. During COVID-19, we've actually been producing more video versions of the show. So you would want to hop over onto YouTube. You can check out my personal channel, which is just Phil McKinney, no spaces. Or you can hop on over to the Innovators Network, and you can get the show from either one of those YouTube channels. So check that out. We're obviously still doing the podcast. And we are also continuing to do the radio show on BizTalk Radio. So lots of content, lots of great guests, lots of very interesting topics. A number of them have focused on innovations and strategies and what companies have done with regards to the COVID-19 experience, impact on employment, impact on new customers, new markets, new opportunities. So check those out, some great content, and love to hear your feedback on that. And today is actually no different. We have a guest with us, joining us via Zoom, given that we have to maintain our social distancing. But Zoom has allowed us to bring in some great guests, and today is no different. So today we have Jerry Abiag from Standard Insights. This is a discussion around the AI and where it can really be applied. But let me first bring Jerry here. Jerry, thanks a lot for joining us here on Killer Innovations.
Hey, Phil, thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
Great. So, hey, Jerry, let's take a few minutes here at the top of the show. Introduce yourself to the guests. Give us a little background on you.
Yeah, so I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, but originally I hail from Cincinnati, Ohio. Went to the University of Cincinnati, a big Bearcat fan. And outside of co-founding and running a startup, I am a fitness fanatic. In my adult life, I've dabbled in, I've done Ironmans, ultramarathons. I got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu a few years back. So you name it, I've dabbled in it with regards to the fitness, in the fitness world. And now that we're in lockdown and gyms are still closed here in Atlanta, I do stuff at home. Right now, for the month of what I did in May and June, I'm doing a push-up challenge. So that's what I do outside of my life running a startup. Actually jealous of you living in Colorado. I love that place. Very suits my needs and love of outdoors.
Well, it is interesting. I mean, we've been very fortunate where we live in the rural part of Colorado. So, being able to enjoy the outdoors, which is the big thing here in Colorado. Interesting, though, I didn't know you were from Cincinnati. I am from Cincinnati. So.
Oh, you are?
My father went to the University of Cincinnati and then worked at what used to be called Cincinnati Milling Machine, became Cincinnati Millicron.
Right.
Both my parents grew up in Norwood, Ohio, went to Norwood High School. My father's house is out in Blue Ash, out near the Blue Ash Airport. So here's the question, and we've had other people. I've had Kroger executives on this show. Here's the magic question I always ask, and this will determine whether you're friend or foe. So you want to answer this question correctly. Are you a Skyline or a Gold Star?
Oh, that's easy. Skyline.
Okay, you win. You're good. You're in the club now. You're in the club.
Yeah. They do have the canned stuff here. It's better than nothing. So every now and then I'll treat myself to that at the local Kroger.
Yeah, well, there's a funny story with Bob McDonald when he was CEO at Procter & Gamble. I was at HP, and I used to have Bob McDonald, the CEO of Procter & Gamble, when he would fly to California to meet with HP because we did all their IT outsourcing. Back then, he'd always bring me a case of Skyline chili. I always joked that the P&G private jet was used to bring me my Skyline fix. So you went to the University of Cincinnati, but you didn't stay in Cincinnati, though. Did you start your career there, or did you go away right away?
Since I was born and raised in Cincinnati, I wanted to do something different.
Okay.
And after graduating college in the mid-'90s, it was like during the Olympics, I went down here to Atlanta to check it out, and been here ever since. But I do go back once or twice a year.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because albeit my family's all from Cincinnati, I grew up in Chicago. So I get the go do something different, that type of strategy. So on the
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I went to my 30th reunion last year, and I have more appreciation for Cincinnati coming back than if I stayed there. So.
Well, it's interesting because the state of Ohio has put together some phenomenal funding programs for startups and entrepreneurs, and particularly Cincinnati has turned into a real hotbed. I've been working and supporting, loosely on the side, a company out of Cincinnati called Listener. They've been on the show, and it's an audio technology where you can embed signals and data into audio that humans don't hear. So it allows you to transmit data, let's say, in retail outlets, and synchronizing video on a screen to data on a phone, but it being transmitted by audio. Phenomenal technology. Company has done great. They are, but if you're interested in that, go back, look in the archive. You can look for Listener. They've been on the show. I've been very impressed with the entrepreneurial support that the state of Ohio has put out for startup companies. Very, very impressive. And it has been something that I think could be a model for other, what I would call not the non-traditional kind of high-tech centers. Atlanta's kind of a high-tech center, Boston, Denver, Boulder, Austin, Texas, Silicon Valley. But, those cities that tend to be kind of overlooked, you shouldn't be overlooking them.
Yeah.
Great opportunities there. So talk a little bit about your early career. You have a sales marketing background. So what was some of your experiences early on in your career?
So, I had roughly 25 years in all facets of sales and marketing. And roughly 9 years ago, I left the corporate world, started my own thing, and helped software companies with sales and marketing initiatives. And along those times, I've had some great clients with, successful exits, and where I got, a nice check out of it. But, as they say, you learn from failure. And one of those clients I worked with, this is going back 4 years ago, was an AI startup. So this was my second go around with an AI startup, and that startup failed miserably. We had, I think, $1 million worth of funding and nothing to show for it. And what I learned at that time, two things: doesn't matter what software platform you are selling, it has to be something that A, is easy to use, and B, solves your customers' problems, and B, didn't realize it back then, but there was something bubbling beneath the surface with regards to AI related technologies. And then through serendipitous events, my future co-founder, who was living in Chennai, India, was visiting Atlanta. He used to live there, and he pitched me this platform or prototype that he was developing that helped businesses drive repeat buyers using artificial intelligence. And learning what I learned from my last startup, took that idea to your neck of the woods, Phil, to an outdoor retail show in Denver. This was 2 years ago. Once I returned back to Atlanta, secured 2 beta clients, and Standard Insights was off to the races.
So, back to the failure, though, real quick. Were you an employee, or were they a client of yours?
They were a client of mine.
Okay. it is interesting, right? Because I've done coaching and mentoring, and it's interesting on the perspectives when you're touching a lot of companies, because you get the ability to learn from multiple clients and from multiple experiences along those lines. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, what I'd like to ask is specifically the lessons learned from that client of yours, right? So if you look back on that, what were kind of the couple of things that you wish you knew? And then we'll hop right in and talk about your current company, Standard Insights. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. Let's pick up our conversation with Jerry Abiag. Jerry, as we were going to the commercial break, we were talking about your experience with one of your clients that was kind of your first attempt into AI. That was AI machine learning, which has also been kind of a buzzword. So you may need to define that a little bit for the audience. But I'm more specifically interested in what was the lesson learned? What were the things you felt contributed to that company not making it?
Yeah, the big thing is it doesn't matter who you are or what company you're running. It can't be about you. It has to be about the clients you want or the clients you are serving. So long story short, no one cares about your technology or the algorithms that you have. I mean, you could have 20, 30 super duper algorithms, but if you can't articulate the messaging and solving a problem, no one cares what bells and whistles you have. And if no one cares about bells and whistles and if you don't have any customers, you could have the best technology in the world, but at the end of the day, that software, that technology is going to be worthless. And so that's not something we realized back then. We were more focused in beating our chest. Look at me, look at me. Look at our technology that we have, and that's why it was another failure.
How big was it? You said what? You raised a total of $1 million in funding.
Yeah.
And so, how many employees was there?
Blew through, and nothing was accomplished. I mean, we had some great ideas, and I went to some great events, but at the end of the day, we didn't accomplish anything.
So talk a little bit then about the founding at Standard Insights. Give us, you talked about it that you've met your founder, in Atlanta. So talk us through those early days of Standard Insights.
So the early days, their genesis behind it was having a platform that would help businesses drive repeat buyers from their existing customer base. And what we noticed, while there's a lot of awesome platforms out there with regards to AI, a good bit of them were just mainly focused on bringing new customers in and not taking those new customers and keeping them for life. And then another thing that we saw, or what we envisioned, there are great tools out there with regards to AI and machine learning that help businesses drive repeat buyers, but they were only in singular tech stacks. We wanted to encompass multiple tech stacks in one easy to use platform to help businesses. And that's why our elevator pitch, if you will, is helping businesses execute data-driven omni-channel campaigns. And why is this important? And it helps businesses target the right person with the right product or service at the right time to help drive both top and bottom line growth. In essence, helping one's business become competitive using AI in a data-driven world.
Yeah, you mentioned specifically the multi-stack problem, right? And the fact that you've got all these disparate technologies, and for a typical small, medium, or even somewhat larger companies that aren't tech focused, explain to why that's a frustration, and what you're doing is different.
So with us, and we were talking to before COVID happened, $1 billion, car company. It just, all these companies, the bigger ones, tend to operate in silos. And so you need to bring everything together, in sales and marketing, technology, and everyone needs to operate in unison in one singular focus. So for us, Standard Insights, we incorporated, a handful of tech stacks into one. And once we get the data, it's easy as 2 clicks of your mouse to run omni-channel campaigns, whether it's email, text, or social media. And Phil, I was listening to one of your podcasts. When you're inventing something or taking something to market, you don't necessarily need to build something that's new. You just need to make something that's out there better.
And that's an interesting point, right? Because everybody thinks it's got to be the big breakthrough, game-changing, radical thing.
Yeah.
But in many cases, we always think about it in two dimensions. If you can solve the problem on any of these dimensions, whether it's time or money, can you save someone time? Right? Can you make them more money? Can you save them money? Time and money are the two dimensions, particularly when you're doing a B2B kind of a play. That's where it gets the traction, right? It doesn't have to be new and totally earth-shattering, but if you found that unique way to save time and help people make more money, it's a great combination.
And you're absolutely right. It's these little incremental steps. And with regards to AI, and the Cliff Notes version of it, definition is getting a computer to think and act like a human. And everyone's seeing this. 2 big examples is Amazon with their product-based recommendations and Netflix with their movie-based recommendations.
Right.
So, they're using open source algorithms. We took those algorithms and sprinkled in some of our own proprietary ones and created what is now known as Standard Insights. So you're absolutely right. It's not inventing something new or radical, just making an existing process. And for us, making it available to the small, mid-sized businesses.
Give us what is the size of your typical customer? If you had to define kind of a sweet spot, what's your sweet spot of your customer base?
So typically, it's a business that has north of $1 million in revenue with a customer base of greater than 200 or 250.
And the customer base, I'm guessing, on why it needs to be north of 200, 250 is you need the data in order to feed it into the engine in order to make the predictions.
Exactly, correct.
Yeah.
And then as more they get more customers and more data, the predictions get better because AI does better with a lot of cause and effect data, and it learns from the past.
Are there particular industry segments you focus in on? We talked about outdoor retail as being one.
Yeah, so initially we started off with e-commerce because they were the early adopters of AI, but we wanted to go beyond that, taking what e-commerce early adopters to brick and mortar, to financial services, and now we're doing stuff with restaurants, part of the, what's going on with COVID. But really our platform, if you look at our website, is it's all about relevant, data-driven customer engagement. And what does customer engagement mean? That means email, that means text, that means social media. So if you and I, Phil, were part of a, customer base of a store, that we get, relevant messaging. Real quick example. So you and I, we're Bearcat fans. We're from the Cincinnati area. You live in Colorado. I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Jerry, let's hold on to that thought real quick. We're going to jump out to a real quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after real soon. Welcome back to the show. We are continuing our conversation with Jerry Abiag. Jerry, we were talking about at the break about customers or how customers think about deploying your particular solution. So give us a story on that.
Yeah, Phil. So it has to be, relevant customer engagement. So you and I order from this global athletic company, And you told me in the green room, obviously you live in the Denver area, but in the green room, you told me you're a Chicago Bears fan. I'm from Cincinnati. I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, but I live in Atlanta. You and I only order from this company either Chicago Bears gear or Cincinnati Bengals gear. But yet this company, just because of where we live, send you advertisements for Denver Broncos gear and myself Atlanta Falcons gear. So obviously that customer or this company does not know who we are because we've never bought gear from that fan base. So with AI, it can help really narrow down and target the customer where they know not to send you. They know to send you just only Chicago Bears gear and me, Cincinnati Bengals gear, even though we don't live in those respective cities. So that's a simple way of explaining where companies nowadays, with the amount of data available, they really have to know who you are and what you're going to buy, and thus helping target the right person with the right product or service at the right time.
Yeah, but here's a question for you, and I know this has been a little bit of the challenge with some of the AI tools that have been out there for e-commerce, and it's what I refer to as the creep factor, right? Because some of these tools, like yours, could be so good, right? And you make the non-logical connection, and people kind of go, huh? How did they make that leap? They got it right.
Right.
But it's kind of a little spooky, right? Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Well, full disclosure, there is always going to be a creep factor. With I believe we're using Zoom. They know us. We're logging in. When we're logging into applications or our phone, our bank app, what have you, there's always going to be a creep factor. I mean,
right.
It's just a fact of life, unless we want to live in a cave and pay everything by cash and don't use any apps. So, yes, there has to be that. You have to walk that tightrope, right? It's not always black or white, but yeah, there's always going to be a creep factor, especially with the technology and the amount of data available out there.
Yeah, well, in fact, this is years ago at HP Labs, we were doing a project codenamed Chameleon. And basically, this is back way before, I think it's probably even back before Google was even really around as a big player. But it watched your browsing history and then would do ad placements based on your browsing history. And it was just a little HP Labs experiment in the early days from a team that was part of an experimental economics research organization inside of Labs. Yeah. And we put this out just within the HP employees, and boy, the backlash on it was pretty intense. But I think nowadays people have gotten a little bit more comfortable with it. But the example you gave, like, if you send me Broncos, an advertisement for Broncos gear, I'm going to who are you? You know nothing about me. Yeah. I'm never going to buy Broncos gear. I gotta be a little careful. I am living in Denver, but I'm not. You're never going to catch me wearing Broncos gear, right? I grew up in Chicago. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. In fact, on the show here, people have seen me in my Chicago White Sox hat. I'm a Chicago guy. But nowadays, I think it's been this transition where the creep factor is becoming less of an issue because people have recognized that, hey, that actually gives me a better buying experience. You know who I am. You're not wasting my time with ads on things that I would just never consider. Yeah. You can narrow that down and actually give me a much better experience.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And 3 things we focus on is customer experience, preventing customer indecision, and telling the customer what to do next. So if you can synthesize all that, all driven by data, then the positives will happen, right? Increase sales and improve efficiencies.
Now I got a question for you, right? We're in the middle of COVID-19. I'm here in my house. You're in, your home in Atlanta, right? But what we've seen in the business world is this drive for this digital transformation, right? Business have been talking about doing it for years, right? They're going to digitize everything, but with COVID, it became an imperative, right? So if you're, if you're a grocery store, being able to take online orders and doing curbside delivery, restaurants being able to take orders and payments and doing that online, to any and all services. How do you transform that to a digital experience? What's been you, in your organization's experience with your customer base, because my guess is your customer base, particularly shifting to a heavy focus on e-commerce, is looking at your kind of a tool to make that transition better, faster, and differentiating for them.
Yeah, it's an arms race, Phil. And now COVID has forced businesses around the globe to look internally. It's like, hey, how can we get better, faster, right? So when we started Standard Insights, yes, we started off with e-commerce clients, but we wanted to go beyond that. So we're taking our basic Smart Choice AI engine and applying it to other verticals. So case in point, restaurants. We actually developed last summer an AI-driven digital menu, but when I presented it to restaurants, I came in, they looked like I had 3 heads. Like, oh, who wants this, man? But now along comes COVID, and myself and the 3 other co-founders, like, holy crap, we developed this. Let's pull it out of the garage. So in March, we pulled it out of the garage, and now we're launching it right now. It's an AI-driven digital menu. So you walk in, you have a link or the QR code. So now the menu, the restaurant's menus, on your phone. You can order, you can pay. It'll make Amazon-like menu recommendations. How does that help? Well, it prevents customer indecision. You order faster. The tables get turned over faster, especially now when if you go to a restaurant, revenue is going to be cut 40 to 50%. So that's one thing. Another thing, the high costs of these apps, Uber Eats, Grubhub, they're 20, 30%. So now it was a perfect opportunity to take the AI and Amazon or menu-like recommendations. Now we're making it available to, your favorite restaurant, your phone, and applying the same concepts that work well for e-commerce.
Well, and it is interesting, right? It's the COVID experience has been those individuals who maybe had, I wouldn't say insight into COVID, but insight into where technology was heading. I think COVID has just been the accelerator, right, to a lot of these things that we just knew were going to happen, right? And this is, take Zoom as an example. Zoom's been a long time sponsor of the show, more than 5 years. We've partnered with Zoom. Zoom provides funding for us to do the show. And in reality, for those of you who don't know, they fund us to do the show. But with our advertising minutes on the radio show side, Zoom and myself, we give those ad minutes away to charities, 501c3s, nonprofits, for their fundraising activities. So Hacking Autism and Pioneer Education and other nonprofits get those ad spots on the national radio show to use as fundraising and to get their message out. But Zoom has been one of those, started many years ago. Eric started this after he left Cisco. Now they went public, Then COVID happens, and they saw a 4,000% increase, right? It's the timing of where things are going, and you do get some of these disruptive shock events that cause for this acceleration, right? So in your case, you already done the work on restaurants. You saw that vision coming, right? COVID just happened to be the accelerator. Then all of a sudden, everybody's like, I got to have that. I need to have it now. And that becomes a huge driver.
Yeah.
So in the case of the restaurants or the outdoor retail, what are some of the other industry segments you're serving or who are using your product today?
Yeah, so prior to COVID, we were actually, it's been slowed down a bit, but talking to financial services companies.
Oh, interesting.
They want relevant customer engagement. So with financial services companies, they have a lot more data on you than a typical e-commerce platform, right? So they know not only geographic, but your demographic, psychographic, behavior type data. And even if you have 20 different products, you can get down, as I say, the devil's in the details, right? You can get down in the weeds. And the customers or clients that recognize that, between two competitors, the one who recognizes being data-driven will win over the one that doesn't.
Hey, let's pick that up. I'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. Continuing our conversation with Jerry Abiag from Standard Insight. So, Jerry, in segment 4 of our show, we always ask our guests to share kind of the lessons learned, the things that you've learned over your career, particularly as an entrepreneur. Both they can be both positive or negative, but things that you wish you knew back when you started down this experience. So this is an opportunity for you to share and help our listeners prepare. Many of them are working on their own ideas, their own innovations, getting ready to try to start, or they may already have started their business, but always looking for that expertise and insight. So what lessons learned can you share with our listeners today?
Yeah, so I guess the one thing is, never give up, always believe in yourself and be open to learning. I mean, I would not have gotten to becoming a co-founder of Standard Insights if not from the past failures of that, the other AI company that was, my client. So learn from your mistakes, always continue to grow. And I'd like to add that try to do something difficult each day, if both professionally and personally. And I think for me personally, being able to do events like Ironman and ultras and getting a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, as a guy in his mid 40s, though those are hobbies, it kind of helped me shape me in a way that, hey, those are hard activities, outside of work. And I often take that mentality, in my day-to-day life of running a startup.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting from that standpoint with regards to, keeping the outside challenges or keeping the outside creativity, right? I started this podcast now. We're in season 16 now, right? As my creative outlet. I didn't think I'd still be around doing it 16 years later, but, it's always, it's having that outside stimulus. It also helps, give you a little bit of a different perspective. But in the case of your client and getting that experience of the client who was in the AI machine learning, you shared earlier some of the insights of that company and what did that mean to you. The one question that a lot of entrepreneurs ask is, oh my God, I tried something and it failed. I'm done. Nobody's ever going to fund me again. Now, in this case, it was a client. It wasn't you directly. But I'm sure you've seen it with other companies, right? Or other entrepreneurs, right? Failure just comes with the territory.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think in many cases, at least in my experience, both as I've done and still do a little bit of angel investing, but, and I always tell entrepreneurs that I have funded in the past or that are struggling or whatever, is like, look, failure is part of the experience, right?
Yeah.
Even if you totally, this idea, this company, goes nose down in the dirt, it does not mean that you'll never be able to raise money. And in fact, many investors look for entrepreneurs that have had at least one failure. Because look, failure is painful. If you've taken people's money and it doesn't work out and you've got to shut it down and you've got to call somebody and say, guess what? This thing tanked. Your value is zero.
Yeah.
You learn to the fact that you will do anything in your power never to have that experience again. And it turns to be a great motivator for entrepreneurs. So there's still investors out there, even if you've had a big failure, who will still give you money because of the fact that the value of that failure experience.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And for me, the one thing that we learned is it's always focusing, not your company and not your algo. You can't beat your chest. I mean, there's going to be times for that later, but it's about the person you're serving or your future clients. Because your investor, when you're in an investor interview, that's what they're going to ask. That's what they're going to look for.
Right,
More so than maybe the technology that you have.
Right, I think you bring up a good point. There are some people out there that are about starting the company and it's about spending all their time in doing press interviews or coming on the shows or thumping their chest, those kinds of things, versus doing the hard work of serving customers and creating raving fans for your products or your technologies. And sometimes, people lose insight. There was one insight I got when I was CTO at HP. Mark Hurd, for many years, would not do any interviews ever when he was the CEO at HP. Why? Because Mark believed that the results speak louder than any words you can say or any profile or making the 50 most creative executives list someplace. Let the results speak for itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hey, Jerry, as we wrap up, if listeners want to follow and keep track of what you and Standard Insights is up to, where is the best place for them to keep track of you?
Yeah, one of three ways. They can find me on LinkedIn, Jerry Avyug at Standard Insights, or they can shoot me an email directly, Jerry, Jerry, at standardinsights.io, or simply go to our website, standardinsights.io, and then once you go into the website, there's a big giant book a demo button, and we can schedule a conversation there.
Great. Hey, Jerry, thanks a lot for joining us here today on Killer Innovations.
Hey, thanks.
Sure thing. So as we wrap up today's show, I just want to give you some updates on things that are going on here. We've got some great new solo shows that are being worked on right now. One is we're continuing down the series of personal or private brainstorming sessions using a variety of different tools. We've been sharing how to use these tools, particularly in the digital world we're all living in with COVID. Your innovation efforts, your brainstorming activities do not have to come to an end. You don't need people to be able to get together and stick Post-it notes up on a wall. And we've been, I think we've gotten 2 out there now, and we've got a couple more that we are working on. So you want to check those out. And you don't, I think the content in that is great. We've been doing some brainstorming on behalf of Zoom and COVID activities, those kinds of things. But just use it as a model for you to do your own brainstorming for whatever it is that you're driving on. We'd also like to hear from you, feedback on the show, guest suggestions. If you've got future guests that you think would be great on the show, we'd love to hear about that. And also, I'd ask a favor. If you are enjoying the show, if you're finding it useful or insightful, helping you as you think about your innovation efforts, could you tell a friend? Share the show. Share a link to the show, whether it be over on iTunes or Google Play or Spotify or wherever you get the show. And with that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.